When you think of ancient Egypt, what comes to mind? Probably pyramids, pharaohs, and yeah, mummies. And for so long, we've been told this story that's all about death. But what if that's completely missing the point? In this explainer, we're going to flip that idea on its head. This isn't a story about an ending at all. It's about a carefully planned cosmic journey, a ticket to eternal life. Okay, let's dive in.
So the big question is, were the ancient Egyptians just obsessed with death? That's what you see in the movies, right? This big, dark, morbid culture? But the truth? It's actually way more interesting than that. In fact, it's pretty much the exact opposite.
See, this whole complicated system of mummification, it was basically a huge society-wide statement. It was them saying, life is incredible. It's so good, so valuable, that we have to make it last forever. This wasn't just some spooky ritual. It was a deep, complex system, part spiritual, part economic, all designed to make sure that journey to the afterlife was a success. It was all about keeping the universe in balance.
Okay, to really get this, you have to understand their idea of the soul. For the Egyptians, the soul had different parts, like the Ba and the Ka. And here's the key. For the soul to have an eternal life, it needed to find its way back to its body. So the body wasn't just some temporary shell. Nope, it was the soul's permanent home, its anchor in the physical world. The soul had to be able to recognize it, or the whole journey was a bust.
So if the body is this sacred house, how did they get it ready? Well, let's try to see this through the eyes of an ancient embalming priest. For them, the job wasn't just about stopping a body from rotting. Not at all. This was a divine transformation. We're not just fighting decay here. We are literally preparing a mortal person to become one with the gods.
And believe me, this was not a simple job. The top-tier deluxe process took around 70 days. First up, you make an incision and carefully remove the main internal organs. They get mummified on their own. The brain, though, funny enough, they thought it was useless, so it just got scrambled and pulled out through the nose with a hook. But the heart was everything. That was the center of intelligence, so it absolutely had to stay. And that 70-day time frame, that was no accident. It perfectly mirrored the 70 days the star Sothis disappeared from the sky, tying the whole process to this powerful cosmic cycle of rebirth.
Now, the real magic ingredient in all of this was a substance called natron. Think of it as divine salt. For up to 40 days, the body was just packed in this stuff. And it worked on two levels. Practically, it's an amazing desiccant, just pulling every last drop of moisture out of the body. But on a symbolic level, it was so much more. It was a purifier. It was cleansing the body of everything worldly, making it spiritually pure and ready to become divine.
And all of this was leading to one ultimate goal. Once the body was totally dried out and purified, it was washed, anointed with special oils, and then coated in resin. This wasn't just to seal it up. The Egyptians believed that the gods themselves had skin made of gold. So that golden, shiny layer of resin, that was meant to literally transform the person into a divine statue, an immortal being with the actual skin of a god.
You can probably imagine a process this complicated wasn't just a religious thing, it was a full-blown industry. I mean, getting ready for the afterlife became one of the biggest drivers of the entire Egyptian economy. It created this huge market for eternity. And what's really surprising is that it was pretty accessible.
Yeah, the Greek historian Herodotus wrote about this. He said there were basically different packages, something for every budget. You had the deluxe option, the full 70-day works. But then there was a budget option where they just dissolve the organs from the inside, dry the body out, and wrap it up. It shows you that eternal life wasn't just for the pharaohs. If you had some money to spend, you could get in on this divine economy. And just think about all the jobs this created. You needed highly trained embalming priests, sure, but you also needed miners to go dig up the natron, weavers to make literally miles of linen bandages, and all sorts of craftsmen, people making coffins, sarcophagi, carving protective amulets. A whole chunk of the economy was built around servicing this journey to the afterlife. It was all fueled by this incredible demand for sacred goods and services.
But this whole economy wasn't just for people. It also involved something that is frankly mind-boggling. One of the most incredible industrial-scale operations of the ancient world, the mummification of millions of animals.
And when I say industrial scale, I am not exaggerating. Archaeologists have found these enormous catacombs just packed to the ceiling with mummified animals, millions of them. We're talking cats, dogs, falcons, crocodiles, and a whole lot of sacred ibises. The demand for these things was just off the charts.
So, what was going on? Why so many?
Well, these weren't Fluffy and Fido being sent to the afterlife with their owners. No, most of these animals were raised and bred for one purpose: to be killed and mummified as offerings to the gods. You can think of them as a kind of divine currency. It was a physical prayer you could actually buy. You'd have it sacrificed in your name and then present it to a god when you needed to ask for a favor. It was a very deliberate spiritual transaction.
And each offering was very specific. Say you wanted some wisdom from Thoth, the god of knowledge. You'd offer up a mummified ibis. Needed protection? A mummified cat was the perfect gift for the goddess Bastet. Each animal was like a direct hotline to a specific god, carrying your request right into the divine world.
Okay, but here's where it gets really wild. This industry became too successful. The demand was so huge that it actually drove some animals, like the sacred ibis and the baboon, to become extinct in certain areas. So what do you do when you run out of the product you're selling? The embalmers got creative. Modern CT scans have shown that a lot of these animal mummies are, well, fakes. They're just beautifully wrapped bundles of mud, sticks, and maybe a few random bones. But here's the kicker. For the Egyptians, the intention was what mattered. If you offered it with a pure heart, it magically was the real deal.
All right, let's get back to our human journey. The body has been perfectly prepared, the tomb is all set. But there's one last absolutely essential step. A final ceremony was needed to basically switch on the mummy, to make it a living, functional person in the afterlife. This was called the opening of the mouth ceremony. A priest would take these special ritual tools and touch the mummy's mouth, its eyes, nose, and ears to magically wake up all the senses. And one of the main tools they used, the peshesh kef knife, was the exact same type of tool used to cut a baby's umbilical cord. Think about that. The symbolism is so powerful. This ritual wasn't about death at all. It was about rebirth. It was giving the person their senses back so they could see, speak, and eat in the world of the dead.
So when you put it all together, you see that mummification was so much more than just a fancy way to bury someone. It was the critical bridge connecting the world of the living with the realm of the dead. It was all about making sure that relationship stayed strong, continuous, and in perfect balance. And that connection didn't just stop once the tomb was sealed up, not by a long shot. Families would go and have memorial picnics right there at the tomb. They'd leave offerings, and they even wrote letters to the dead on clay bowls, asking their ancestors for advice or help. Even just saying the name of someone who had passed on was a powerful act that kept their spirit alive. The dead were still a very real, very active part of the community. Ultimately, this entire divine economy, everything from the holy work of the priests to the massive scale of animal offerings, it all served one purpose: maintaining Ma'at, the cosmic balance of order and truth. Every single person who was successfully mummified became a divine being, another soul reinforcing the barrier against chaos. It helped guarantee that the great cycle of life, death, and rebirth would continue for everybody.
And that leaves us with a pretty powerful thought, doesn't it? For the ancient Egyptians, your body wasn't the end of the line. It was the seed from which your eternal life would grow. So it makes you wonder, if you believe that, truly believed it, what price would you be willing to pay to preserve that seed? What kind of world would you build to make sure it could grow?